Over the weekend, if you have been watching the news, you know that Los Angeles has been at the center of massive and explosive situations. Well, it's time to cut through the clutter and break down for you exactly how this all started, why things got so out of the hand, and what really goes behind the scenes as Trump sends 2,000 troops on ground in Los Angeles. It all began in the suburbs of Los Angeles called Paramount, right outside a Home Depot hardware store. For years, this location has been a gathering spot for day laborers, people mostly Hispanic who look for work each day doing construction, painting or repairs. As per reports, many of them are undocumented, living in the shadows, just trying to make a living. Well, over the weekend, something unusual happened. People starting to see what looked like an immigration enforcement vehicle near that very store. Rumors spread like wildfire that day laborers were being detained in that very raid. The fear and anxiety exploded almost instantly, and within hours, crowds started gathering. The mood was tense. People were scared, angry, and also confused. The rumors turned out to be false. There was no actual raid at that hardware store. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security even had to issue a statement stating that despite inaccurate, there are no ICE raids at the Home Depot in LA. But by then, it was too late. The damage was already done. Protests erupted and things quickly turned violent. Rocks and Molotov cocktails were thrown. Police responded with pepper spray, rubber bullets and smoke bombs. Vehicle was set on fire. Businesses were looted. The city, already on edge because of President Trump's aggressive immigration policies, was now facing what federal officials called riots. The unrest wasn't just in Paramount. It spread to other parts of the LA as well, including downtown, near a federal detention center where protesters clashed with riot police and federal agencies. In fact, tear gas filled the air and arrests were made as bottles and concrete were thrown at police officers. In fact, as per reports, at least 180 immigrants have been arrested in this very operation across the city over the past week. But what really pushed things over the edge was the decision by President Donald Trump to deploy the National Guard. Normally, the National Guard is under the control of the state governor, but Trump, using a rarely invoked federal law, took direct control of the California National Guard and sent nearly 2,000 troops into LA. He said this was necessary to protect federal property and personals and also to help enforcement of the immigration laws. But California Governor Gavin, Newsom and other local leaders were furious. In fact, the governor called the move purposefully inflammatory and said it would only make things worse. He argued that the state and the local enforcement had everything under control and that there was no need for federal intervention. This is where the situation becomes a political showdown. Newsom and Trump have been at odds for years, but this is a new level. Newsom accused Trump of using the crisis to create spectacle and to score political points. He warned that sending in National Guard would erode public trust and escalate tensions. He even asked the White House to withdraw the troops, but Trump refused. The White House meanwhile painted a picture of lawlessness and chaos in LA. Even Trump's press secretary has called California leaders as completely abdicated their responsibilities to protect their citizens, which is why Trump decided to act. In fact, the president himself has framed the protests as rebellion and a threat to the nation, even hinting at the possibility of using more federal forces if things escalate further. Kamala Harris, the former vice president, has been as vocal as the governor, and her office has echoed the sentiment that the federal intervention is unnecessary and also dangerous. The message from California Democrats is clear. Trump is overstepping his authority and making things worse. So why is Trump so desperate for this fight with California? Let's break it down. The answer is both political and personal. California is a deep blue state, a stronghold for Democrats, and a frequent target of Trump's rhetoric. In fact, he made immigration a central issue of his campaign and his presidency, promising mass deportations and tough enforcement. But so far, his administration has struggled to deliver on those promises. These protests in LA have given him a chance to show his base that he's tough on immigration and willing to take on his political rivals. It's a high-profile confrontation with a leading Democrat in a liberal state over an issue that energizes Trump's supporter. By sending in the National Guard, he makes a statement. He's in charge and he's not afraid to use federal power to enforce his policies. But what does Trump really want out of this situation? Does he want to make immigration enforcement a national issue? And is he using LA as the stage for that fight? Well, the people of Los Angeles, meanwhile, are caught in the middle. Many are scared, some are angry, others just want to go to work and live their lives. The situation is a reminder of how quickly fear and misinformation can spiral out of control and how political leaders can exploit that fear for their own gain. So what happens next? Well, no one really knows. The National Guard is on the streets, protests are continuing. The president and the governor are locked in a power struggle, and the country is watching. In fact, if you are in LA, stay safe. If you're watching from afar, remember that behind the headlines and the political fights, real people's lives are being affected. And as always, stay informed, stay critical, and don't let fear or misinformation cloud your judgment.